Hey everyone, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, thanks for joining me today. This video admittedly is a little bit off the beaten blues path. This came about, there's a tune called Cissy Strut by the Meters. I think originally done by the Meters. And it's kind of a one-chord vamp. And there was a little bit of discussion about it. And the interesting thing about it is because it's a one-chord vamp, when you're soloing over a one-chord vamp, it provides for a very interesting situation. So let me kind of show you a little bit about what I mean. So in this particular case, it's a C9, all right? So the groove is basically just a kind of a funky C9, right? The tune itself, I forget. Yeah, B flat, F, C. It's all minor pentatonic except that note, which is an A. And don't quote me on this. I believe that's it. It's all notes out of the minor pentatonic. But this is not about playing the tune. The tune's very easy. You probably have very little trouble learning it if you know your pentatonic scale. The trick here, like I say, is soloing over this one-chord vamp. Because generally speaking, that's what you're going to find yourself facing. Now, this occasionally will happen in a blues, but it's unusual. But it will happen a lot on sort of classic funk, blues, jazzy, rocky jam tunes. If you're a Grateful Dead fan, you know, this kind of thing happens a lot. They just sort of play one chord for a long time. It may seem like two chords. It may be something like, you know, like C11 to C7, you know, C11 to C major, which basically it's still always over a C. Okay, so stuff like that, it counts as one chord, and it's a dominant style chord. Sometimes it'll be like a 7-sharp 9. If it's an altered, like a 7-sharp 9 or some sort of altered chord, the sky is really, really the limit. But let me show you a few different options on what we can do on this one in particular. So what I'm going to do is I've got it in my looper. Okay, so there's the C9. Now, being as we come from a blues background, the obvious choice is probably the minor blues scale. And this will work. Okay, but since it is fundamentally a major chord, we should also be able to use the major blues sound, which we can. We could also theoretically use the Mixolydian mode, okay? Now, what you'll probably notice about all of those is that they have sort of good points and bad points, okay? So, for example, when using the minor blues, what I find is that I miss the major third. And I miss like the 6 and the 2 sometimes. So I find that there's some notes that I sort of miss. I find that when I play the major blues sound, I really miss that flatted 7. It's not there, and I really want to hit it. When I play the Mixolydian scale, what I find is that I miss the distance between notes. And so I tend to do things like that where I skip a note. So I play the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th, which I think is a really cool sound. But if I just play the scale, I don't get any of the tension of the blues notes. what I tend to end up doing is I tend to end up sort of mixing them all together, okay? But not all at once, okay? Because if I play them all at once, I get something like that. And that's not really what I'm going for either, but now that right there, by the way, was kind of even a different idea, which is what I call the pentatonic 6 sound. So you take a minor pentatonic scale and you replace the flatted 7 with the 6. That's a great sound for something like this. In addition, I can play actually any note at all. Because it's a one-chord vamp, technically speaking, any chord is fair game. Or any note is fair game, because it's going to create an altered 7th chord sound. Okay, so if I'm trying to build, right, let's say that I'm maybe playing something minor pentatonic, minor bluesy. And I just start going up. That'll absolutely work as long as when I'm done messing around, going out and playing all kinds of weird stuff, when I'm done doing that, I resolve it preferably on a downbeat to a chord tone. Now, in my experience, if I just start climbing up, that's usually going to work out. At some point, there's going to be a note that's going to be really close to a chord tone and the beat's going to come around in my favor, so I just sort of wait for that to happen. And you just never know when it's going to be. You can play things like the half whole diminished scale. You can take the pentatonic 6 sound and move it up a half step, which gives you something akin to an altered dominant scale. There's all these like weird jazzy scales that come out. But here's the thing to notice, okay? All of these are just different ways to sort of group together a certain group of notes, okay? Like if we take the Mixolydian scale, okay, and I add in the flatted 3rd and the flatted 5th, which are the blue notes. So I have 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. Okay, the only ones I don't have are the flatted 2. I don't have a flat 6. And I don't have a natural 7. Okay, so I have 9 out of the 12 notes in the universe at my disposal. And they're at my disposal, I'll say comfortably. None of those notes are going to really pull on my ear. Okay, they're not going to make me go, whoa. If I use any of those notes, that flatted 2 or that major 7th, those are all going to probably pull harder on my ear because they're not found. What's interesting about those 9 notes from that Mixolydian scale with the 2 blue notes is that any other grouping I can come up with, the pentatonic minor, the pentatonic major, the blues minor, the blues major, the Mixolydian, the Dorian, the pentatonic 6, all of those different sounds are still found in that one universe of notes, which is the Mixolydian scale plus the flatted 3rd and the flatted 5th, the 2 blue notes. Okay, so if you can get used to that universe being one of your options, all of those other patterns or other scales are just subsets of that. And so what ends up being really cool is to sort of move back and forth between them quickly as you go. You don't want to, I tend to not play a mode, the Mixolydian or the Dorian mode, particularly because I just don't want that scalar it's more of a rock sound to play. You know, even if I do like. You'll hear me do stuff like that once in a while, but it's. I'll mix in other things. Okay, so I won't really just play down a Mixolydian scale. You'll rarely hear that. If anything, you'd hear me play a Dorian scale over that chord, because at least it's a flatted third instead of a natural third. So if I'm gonna play a scale, I'm gonna play one that's at least got a little bit of bluesy tension, okay? And taking a Dorian mode, putting it right over top where a Mixolydian mode might otherwise go, gives you that sort of bluesy tension. There's a lot of different, very subtle, but very cool things you can do. And I realize I've thrown out a whole lot of different scale patterns and a whole lot of different names and a whole lot of different possibilities. But my goal here today is just sort of to show you what might be an option, what might be a possibility, okay? So let me throw this guy on, and I'm gonna kind of try to call out the sounds as I go, right? So minor, pentatonic, blues. When I say pentatonic or blues, it's the same thing. So minor blues, major blues. And when I play my major blues, I tend to throw in that flatted 7. Dorian, pentatonic 6, back to minor blues, pentatonic 6, minor pentatonic, major, minor, major, minor, major, altered, and that was just a mess. I'm not really sure what that was. But you get the idea. Anything is okay if you like the sound of it, right? You can honestly, you can throw down anything over a one-chord vamp and it counts. It's valid. Whether or not you like it, obviously that's a whole different thing. But one-chord vamps can be really, really fun. They can also be a great way to just sort of practice different sounds. Because a lot of times when we solo, we're thinking about, okay, this song is in the key of this, and so I'm playing this scale throughout the whole chord progression. Well, a one-chord vamp gives us some time to really explore some different sounds. So whether it's in a funk groove or a slow blues groove or a shuffle groove or any of, straight feel groove, anything like that, playing just that one chord into your looper and experimenting with different sounds over it can yield some pretty cool stuff if you're willing to just sort of take the time, explore maybe some new sounds that you don't always use, that you don't naturally go to. Pick areas of the fretboard that you're not comfortable with, right? This is a great way to just sort of expand your palette of sounds, okay? So that's all I got for you today. Obviously a very experimental lesson, but I hope you'll give it a shot and play with it a little bit. And of course, if you have friends that you think would dig this lesson, feel free to share it with them. Again, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed, and I will see you soon. Take care.